Commander Tai-Ho Kim moved quietly through the dimly lit cargo bay 14, finishing his evening inspection of Nexus 7 station. The metallic walls hummed with the station's life support systems, creating a backdrop of white noise that had become familiar after his 5 years stationed here. Something caught his attention, a slight movement behind the tall stack of supply containers. Tai-Ho froze, his hand moving to the stunner at his hip. After 15 years in Earth Space Force, his instincts remained sharp. "Hello," he called out firmly. "Station security. Please identify yourself." Silence answered him. Then came a soft, rustling sound as something, or someone, shifted behind the containers. "I won't ask again," Tai-Ho warned, drawing his stunner. "Come out now." A figure emerged slowly from behind the containers. Tai-Ho blinked in surprise. Before him stood a Thraxi female, her blue skin almost luminescent under the bay's emergency lights. 4 slender arms were raised in a universal gesture of surrender. Her silver eyes, wide and frightened, seemed to glow from within. "Please," she whispered, her voice musical but strained. "No report. They find me. I die." Her galactic command was broken but understandable. Tai-Ho kept his stunner raised, though something in those silver eyes made him hesitate. She wasn't just afraid, she was terrified. "What's your name?" he asked, lowering his weapon slightly. "Lyra," she replied, her voice barely audible over the hum of the station. One of her 4 hands clutched at a tear in her simple gray jumpsuit. "My ship, destroyed. Nowhere to go." Tai-Ho glanced at the security camera in the corner. He should call this in immediately. Station regulations were clear. All undocumented aliens must be processed through security. But the desperation in her eyes reminded him of the refugees he'd encountered during the Proxima conflict. Civilians caught in political crossfires they never asked for. With a sigh, Tai-Ho reached up and adjusted the security camera, turning it away from their position. "Follow me," he said quietly. "Stay close. Don't speak." Lyra nodded, her movements graceful despite her obvious exhaustion. Tai-Ho led her through the service corridors, pathways used mainly by maintenance bots and station engineers. They passed only one other human, a tired-looking technician who barely glanced their way. 5 minutes later, they reached Tai-Ho's apartment in the officer's living section. He pressed his palm against the reader, and the door slid open with a soft hiss. "Quickly," he whispered. Lyra stepped toward the doorway, but froze at the threshold. Her silver eyes widened, and all 4 of her hands trembled as she gazed into the apartment. "Is something wrong?" Tai-Ho asked, glancing over his shoulder to ensure no one was coming. "This space," Lyra whispered, her voice filled with disbelief. "All for you. Just one human." Tai-Ho looked past her into his apartment. It was standard officer quarters, a small living area with a couch and view screen, a kitchenette in the corner, a bedroom through one door, and a bathroom through another. Nothing special by human standards. "Yes, it's just for me," he confirmed, gently ushering her inside. The door closed behind them with a reassuring click. Lyra stood in the center of the room, her eyes moving from object to object, as if she were cataloging treasures in a museum. "So much space," she murmured. "For one person." Her lower set of arms hugged her torso while her upper hands gestured at the room. Tai-Ho watched her with growing curiosity. "Is it different on your world?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Thraxi live together. Many bodies, one space, even high caste." She pointed to the kitchen. "Food-making place, private. And sleeping place, also private." "Yes, both are just for me," Tai-Ho confirmed. He moved to the kitchen and filled a glass with water, offering it to his unexpected guest. Lyra accepted the glass carefully, as if it might break at her touch. She drank slowly, her eyes never leaving Tai-Ho's face. "Why help?" she asked finally. "Humans, and Thraxi not friends. Your leaders say report aliens." Tai-Ho sat down on the couch, giving her space. Not all humans follow every rule, he said with a small smile. And you said you were in danger. I've seen enough suffering to last a lifetime. A sound from the bedroom doorway made Lyra jump. Tai-Ho's cat, Moon, strolled into the room, his white fur almost glowing in the apartment's soft lighting. Lyra reacted instantly, leaping backward with surprising agility. All four arms raised in defense posture, and a high-pitched sound escaped her throat. Predator, she gasped. In your home. Tai-Ho couldn't help but laugh as Moon, completely uninterested in their visitor, jumped onto the couch and began cleaning himself. That's just Moon, he explained. He's a cat. A pet. He lives with me. Lyra's eyes, if possible, grew even wider. You keep hunter animal as companion. Something about her confusion touched Tai-Ho deeply. What kind of life had she lived that a private apartment and a house cat could shock her so completely? You're safe here, he said gently. At least for tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure out what to do next. Lyra slowly lowered herself onto the floor, her eyes moving between Tai-Ho and Moon with equal parts wonder and wariness. Human home, she whispered, almost to herself. Not what they told us. Not what they said at all. Morning light filtered through the station's artificial windows as Tai-Ho prepared breakfast. The smell of coffee filled the small apartment. He had slept on the couch, giving his bed to Lyra, who had been too exhausted to argue. Did you rest well? Tai-Ho asked as the blue-skinned alien emerged from the bedroom. Her silver eyes looked less haunted after 8 hours of sleep. Yes. Sleeping space. Lyra paused, searching for words. Very soft, very quiet, strange to sleep alone. Tai-Ho set 2 cups on the small table. I made tea. It's similar to a galactic common drink. Might taste familiar. Lyra sat carefully on the chair, all 4 arms moving with deliberate grace. She accepted the cup, cradling it with her lower hands while her upper ones remained poised above, as if ready to protect the drink. Thank you, she said simply. The steam rose between them as she took a small sip. Tai-Ho watched her with open curiosity. So you're telling me that on Thraxi, even high-case citizens like yourself share living quarters with dozens of others? She nodded, her 4 hands now all involved in holding the cup, as if it were made of precious gems. Research caste has privileges, yes. Private sleeping pod. Dedicated study terminal. But private food preparation area. Personal hygiene chamber. She looked around the apartment again. Impossible luxuries. Tai-Ho glanced around his modest quarters. By station standards, it was nothing special. A small kitchen, 1 bedroom, and a tiny bathroom. To Lyra, it apparently resembled a palace. How many Thraxi would typically share a space this size? He asked. Lyra's upper right hand made a counting gesture. This size. 20 researchers minimum. Lower castes, maybe 50 workers. She took another sip of tea. Spaces. Community resource. Not personal. What about food? Tai-Ho asked, sliding a plate of simple breakfast toward her. Do you eat communally too? Always. She examined the food with scientific interest. Each caste has nutrition time. Food prepared by service caste. She carefully picked up what looked like a piece of toast. You make own food. For just you. Most humans do, Tai-Ho confirmed. Though many also eat in communal spaces sometimes, restaurants, cafeterias. By choice, Lyra said, the concept clearly novel to her, not by requirement. His cat, Moon, chose that moment to saunter into the room, stretching lazily before heading toward his food bowl. Lyra leaped to her feet with a cry of alarm, all 4 arms raised defensively. Predator animal. In your dwelling. Tai-Ho couldn't help laughing. That's just Moon. He's a pet. He won't hurt you. Pet. The translator implant behind Lyra's ear flickered with blue light, struggling with the concept. You keep Predator as companion. Voluntarily. He mostly sleeps and demands food, Tai-Ho explained, reaching down to scratch behind Moon's ears. The cat purred loudly. pressing against his leg. "Here, he won't hurt you. He's domesticated, bred to live with humans." Lyra slowly lowered herself back to her seat, but her eyes never left the cat. "On my world, animals serve purpose. Farm work, protection, not companionship." Moon, completely indifferent to being the subject of alien analysis, began eating from his bowl, the soft crunching sounds filling the quiet apartment. "Would you like to touch him? When he finishes eating, he usually likes attention," Tai-Ho offered. Lyra's silver eyes widened. "Touch predator. Voluntarily. Only if you want to," Tai-Ho assured her. "He's very gentle." They finished their breakfast with Lyra asking dozens of questions about human living arrangements. She seemed particularly fascinated by the concept of privacy. "In ResearchCast, even thoughts are shared," she explained. "Projects, findings, theories, all belong to collective. But you must have personal thoughts," Tai-Ho pressed. "Dreams, opinions." Lyra was quiet for a long moment. "Those are dangerous. The new regime especially. They say individual thoughts lead to social decay." She set down her cup with all four hands, a gesture that seemed ceremonial. "My research was becoming too individual." "What was your research about?" Tai-Ho asked. "Comparative psychology. Between species." Her silver eyes met his. "Finding similarities in how different beings think, feel. Regime says such similarities don't exist. That humans especially, primitive, violent, selfish." She tilted her head, studying him. "But you share home with stranger, with alien. Why?" The directness of her question caught Tai-Ho off guard. He considered several diplomatic answers before settling on the truth. "Because it seemed like the right thing to do," he said simply. Moon, finished with his breakfast, strolled over and rubbed against Tai-Ho's leg, purring loudly. Lyra watched with fascination. "On Thraxi, right thing is what benefits collective," she said quietly. "Personal choice rarely matters." "And yet you chose to flee," Tai-Ho observed. "That was an individual choice." Lyra's four hands folded together in a complex pattern. "Yes, first truly individual choice of my life." Her voice dropped lower. "Maybe my last, if Quan finds me." "Quan?" Tai-Ho asked, suddenly alert. "Chief Hunter," Lyra explained, a tremor entering her voice. "Regime's enforcer. Hunts dissidents across systems." She looked toward the window, at the stars beyond. "If here, he won't stop until finds me." Tai-Ho felt a chill that had nothing to do with the station's temperature. Moon, sensing the shift in mood, jumped onto his lap. For once, Lyra didn't flinch at the cat's movement. "Then we'll need to make sure he doesn't find you," Tai-Ho said with more confidence than he felt. "There are others who would help. Humans who understand what it means to seek refuge." Lyra's expression was unreadable, her alien features masking whatever emotion she felt. "Why would humans help Thraxi? Our world's not allies." "Because," Tai-Ho said, scratching Moon behind the ears, "not everything is about politics or collectives or castes. Sometimes it's just about one person helping another." For the first time since he'd met her, Lyra's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. 3 days passed quietly. Tai-Ho returned to his regular duties, while Lyra stayed hidden in his apartment. She was a respectful guest, keeping the space tidy and asking thoughtful questions about human life. Tai-Ho found himself enjoying their evening conversations. Moon had even warmed to her, allowing Lyra to stroke his fur with one of her 4 hands. Their peaceful routine ended abruptly on the 4th morning. The station-wide alert blared through Tai-Ho's apartment, the harsh sound making both of them jump. Moon darted under the couch. "Attention all residents," announced a stern voice. "Security protocols elevated to level 3. Thraxi enforcement vessel has docked. All residents must comply with identification checks." Lyra's silver eyes widened in terror. Her blue skin seemed to pale, taking on an ashen tone. "Quan," she whispered. "It must be Chief Hunter Quan." "Who?" Tai-Ho asked, already moving to secure the apartment. He locked the door and dimmed the lights. Most feared of new regime's enforcers, Lyra explained, her voice trembling, her 4 arms wrapped around herself protectively. He hunts dissidents across galaxy. Taiho looked out the window. In the docking bay below, he could see a sleek black vessel with sharp predatory lines. Unlike the functional human ships, this craft was designed to intimidate. Why would they send someone so important after you? Taiho asked, drawing the blinds closed. Lyra's upper hands moved in a nervous pattern. My research, it contradicts regime's teachings about other species, shows similarities between all sentient minds. Taiho's comm unit chimed. He checked the ID and answered quickly. Jiwoo, what's happening? Jiwoo Park's face appeared on the small screen. His former squad mate now worked in station security. Taiho, you need to be careful, Jiwoo warned. His voice was low, suggesting he didn't want to be overheard. This Thraxi official is demanding access to all living quarters. They're claiming to search for contraband, but my security sources say they're after refugees. How are they justifying that? Taiho asked. The station has treaties with Earth. They're calling it a security cooperation exercise. Jiwoo replied, sounding disgusted. Our commander doesn't want to risk a diplomatic incident. Room-by-room searches begin in 6 hours, starting with the lower levels. Keep me updated, Taiho said before ending the call. He turned to Lyra, who stood motionless in the center of the room. How many other Thraxi might be hiding on the station? None, Lyra replied softly. They come only for me. She paused, her silver eyes reflecting the dim light of the apartment. My research could undermine their power. If species not so different, why should Thraxi fear others? Taiho checked his weapons locker, removing a small civilian stunner and slipping it into his pocket. We need to move you somewhere safer. No place safe from Quan, Lyra said. He has hunt record of 27 successful captures across 9 systems. This isn't Thraxi space, Taiho reminded her. This is a human station with laws protecting refugees. Laws mean nothing to new regime, Lyra replied. All 4 of her hands trembled slightly. They take what they want. Throughout the day, the station hummed with unusual activity. Security personnel moved in groups, checking IDs and examining cargo. Taiho monitored the situation through messages from Jiwoo, learning that the Thraxi enforcers were methodically working their way through the station. As evening approached, Taiho prepared a simple meal. His mind raced with possible escape routes, but each plan seemed more dangerous than the last. The officers' quarters would be searched last, giving them perhaps 12 more hours of safety. Try to rest, he told Lyra. I'll keep watch. Despite his concerns, exhaustion eventually pulled Taiho into sleep. He dozed in the chair near the door, his stunner within easy reach. While Taiho slept, Lyra moved quietly around the apartment. Her silver eyes adjusted easily to the darkness. On a small shelf, she discovered something that made her pause. A collection of books. Physical books with paper pages bound together. Such objects were rare even on Thraxi, reserved only for the highest historical archives. Carefully, she selected one and opened it. The translator implant behind her ear hummed softly as it processed the human language. Poetry, it translated. Earth Classic Collection. Lyra settled on the floor, all 4 arms involved in the delicate task of turning pages and holding the book. For hours, she remained absorbed in human poetry, her translator working overtime to convey the nuances of emotion that, according to her society, primitives like humans shouldn't be capable of understanding. One poem especially captured her attention, something about roads diverging in a forest. The concept of choosing one's own path, and that choice making all the difference, seemed revolutionary to her caste-bound mind. At dawn, Taiho woke with a start. He found Lyra surrounded by his books, her eyes wide with wonder. Your species writes about love, she said without preamble. About choices, about individual feelings. Her voice contained both amazement and confusion. Regime says humans only think of violence and domination. Taiho smiled despite their dangerous situation. We write about those things too, he admitted. Humans contain many contradictions. Before Lyra could respond, Taiho's comm unit chimed with an urgent alert. He answered quickly. Jiwoo's face appeared, his expression grim. They've accelerated the search schedule, he warned. Officers' quarters will be searched within 2 hours. And Taiho, he lowered his voice. The Thraxi enforcer, Quan, he specifically asked about you. Be careful. The connection ended. Taiho looked at Lyra, who had heard everything. How could he know? Taiho wondered aloud. Quan always knows. Lyra whispered, closing the book of poetry with reverent care. Now I have endangered you too. Taiho stood and began gathering essential supplies. Then we need a new plan, he said firmly. And I think I know who can help us. Taiho and Lyra spent the next 2 days hiding in a maintenance closet near the station's outer ring. The small space was barely big enough for both of them, but it had an air vent and access to emergency power. Taiho's old military training made the hardship bearable. For Lyra, used to communal living, the closeness was almost comforting. Their only contact with the outside world was Taiho's comm unit, which he used sparingly to avoid detection. Through it, he reached out to old friends from his Earth Space Force days. On the morning of the 3rd day, Taiho's face broke into a smile as he read the latest messages. He turned to Lyra, who was examining a maintenance manual with curious silver eyes. I have a plan, Taiho announced, but it's risky. Lyra set down the manual. All 4 of her hands folded together in a gesture Taiho had learned meant she was giving her full attention. Any plan better than waiting for Quan to find us, she said simply. Taiho showed her the messages from his old Earth Space Force network, Subin, Jun, Hana, and others, all confirming they could help move Lyra through what they called the Starlight Railway. You have organized system for helping aliens. Lyra couldn't hide her shock. Her translator implant blinked rapidly, as if it too were surprised by the concept. Humans have been helping refugees since before we reached the stars, Taiho explained. It's what we do. He outlined the plan. Old military contacts had arranged passage on a cargo ship bound for Earth. There, Lyra could find sanctuary among a small community of alien refugees who had been granted asylum. They live openly on Earth. Lyra asked, her voice filled with disbelief. Not all humans fear differences, Taiho said. Many celebrate them. Their escape was set for the station's night cycle when security would be at minimum staffing. Taiho's elderly neighbor, Mr. Jun, would create a distraction in the commons area. Station engineer Ha-Won would temporarily disable certain security protocols. Everything was carefully arranged. When the time came, Taiho led Lyra through rarely used service corridors. They moved silently, Taiho checking each intersection before proceeding. Lyra followed close behind, her 4 arms occasionally reaching out to steady herself against the walls. Almost there, Taiho whispered as they approached the maintenance shaft that would lead them to the civilian docks. The cargo ship waited, its captain already bribed to ask no questions. As they reached the entrance to the shaft, the shadows ahead shifted. A tall figure stepped into their path, blocking the narrow corridor. Taiho's hand moved to his stunner, but he knew immediately it would be useless. Before them stood a Thraxi nearly 7 feet tall, dressed in gleaming black armor adorned with official markings. Unlike Lyra's 4 slender arms, this Thraxi had 4 muscular limbs, each ending in what looked like armored gauntlets. Researcher Lyra, the Thraxi said, his voice deep and cold. How disappointing to find you with a human. Your contamination is worse than we feared. Lyra trembled beside Taiho but stood her ground. Chief Hunter Quan, she acknowledged. Her research isn't contamination. It's truth, Taiho said, stepping forward protectively. She's done nothing wrong. Quan laughed, a harsh sound that echoed in the metal corridor. Truth. That humans and Thraxi share emotional structures. That would undermine millennia of Thraxi superiority doctrine. His upper right hand moved to a weapon at his side. The regime cannot allow such dangerous ideas to spread. Taiho tensed, ready to fight despite the hopelessness of their situation. Quan was larger, stronger, and undoubtedly better armed. A loud explosion suddenly echoed from the direction of the commons. Mr. Jun's distraction, right on schedule. But it wasn't enough. Quan seemed unperturbed, raising his weapon with practiced efficiency. "Step aside, human," Quan ordered. "This matter does not concern your species. It became my concern when your regime began hunting innocent researchers." Taiho replied, not budging. Quan's finger tightened on the trigger. "Then you will share her fate." Suddenly, the corridor behind them filled with noise and movement. At least a dozen station residents, humans and aliens alike, all appeared simultaneously, carrying tools and equipment, all coincidentally needing to access this particular maintenance area at this exact time. The narrow corridor quickly became crowded with bodies. A Centaurian engineer bumped into Quan, apologizing profusely while blocking his aim. Two human maintenance workers started a loud argument about proper tool storage directly in front of them. In the confusion, someone grabbed Taiho's arm. He turned to see Hawan, her station engineer uniform slightly askew, her eyes bright with adrenaline. "This way," she whispered, pulling both Taiho and Lyra toward a service elevator none of them had noticed before. The doors slid open silently. As they stepped inside, Taiho caught a glimpse of Quan struggling to push through the crowd, his face twisted with rage as he realized what was happening. "Hurry," Hawan said as the doors closed. "Your shuttle leaves in 5 minutes." The elevator descended rapidly toward the civilian docks. Lyra stared at Hawan, then at Taiho, her silver eyes wide with confusion. "All those people," she whispered. "They helped. Why? They don't know me." Hawan smiled, adjusting her tool belt. "They know Taiho, and they know what's right." The elevator slowed. Hawan handed Taiho a small data chip. "New identities. The cargo ship captain has the rest of what you'll need. You're coming with us." Lyra asked Taiho, her voice uncertain. Taiho nodded. "Quan saw my face. I can't stay here now." He turned to Hawan. "Thank you. Tell the others." "They already know," Hawan interrupted as the doors opened. "Now go, and take care of each other." They stepped out into the busy dock area, just two more figures among the crowd of workers and travelers. Ahead, a cargo ship waited, its loading ramp down, its engines already warming for departure. "That's our ride," Taiho said, taking Lyra's lower right hand in his. "Ready for Earth." For the first time since he'd met her, Lyra smiled without reservation. "Ready," she said, squeezing his hand with surprising strength. Together, they walked toward the ship, and whatever future awaited them beyond the stars they knew. 6 months had passed since their escape from Nexus 7. Spring had come to this part of Earth, bringing warm sunshine and blooming flowers to the university campus. Lyra sat on a wooden bench in the garden, watching students of 17 different species studying together on the grass. Her blue skin had darkened slightly from exposure to real sunlight, something she had never experienced before coming to Earth. Beside her, Taiho stood beneath a flowering tree, explaining something to a small group of alien exchange students. His hands moved animatedly as he spoke. "These are cherry blossoms," he was saying. "They only bloom for a short time each year. Humans consider them special because they remind us that beautiful things don't last forever." A Meridian student with crystal-like skin tilted its head. "So humans celebrate impermanence." "Sometimes," Taiho replied with a smile. "It helps us appreciate what we have now." Lyra watched this exchange with quiet amazement. 6 months ago, she would never have believed such a scene possible. Different species learning from each other as equals. On Thraxi, other species were either threats or resources, never friends. Her data pad chimed with a new message notification. The small device had been a gift from the university when they offered her a research position. Lyra checked the screen with her upper right hand while her other 3 hands remained folded in her lap. It was another response to her galactic Reddit post, now the most shared entry in the platform's history. She titled it, "I took shelter with a human. What I discovered changed everything." The post had sparked a movement. Hundreds of aliens were now sharing their experiences with humans, contradicting the propaganda spread by regimes like the one controlling Thraxi. "Your post reached my colony," read the latest message. "I never believed humans could be as you described. Yesterday, I met my first human. You were right. They offered help without demanding payment. I don't understand why, but I am grateful." Lyra saved the message with her other collected responses. There were thousands now from beings across the galaxy whose understanding of humans had been shaped by fear and propaganda. Her simple story had opened so many minds. She looked up as Taiho approached, carrying 2 ice cream cones. This sweet, cold treat had become her favorite Earth indulgence. On Thraxi, food was for nutrition only, never for pleasure. "1 chocolate, 1 strawberry," he said, offering her the pink cone. "I remembered you liked the fruit flavors best." "Thank you," Lyra said, carefully taking the cone with her lower hands while her upper ones accepted a napkin. 6 months of practice had made her quite good at eating ice cream without making a mess, though it had been a learning process. Taiho sat beside her on the bench. "Still documenting your shocking discoveries about humans?" he asked with a smile, nodding at her datapad. "The messages never stopped coming," she replied. "So many beings raised to fear humans, now learning different truth." She licked her ice cream thoughtfully before continuing. "The most shocking discovery wasn't that humans have private bathrooms," she said. "It was that when faced with someone different, someone in need, so many of you choose compassion over fear." Taiho smiled at that. "Not all of us. We have our share of quans too." "Yes," Lyra agreed. "But enough of you choose differently to make change possible." In the distance, they could see the newly established Interspecies Refugee Center, a simple building with a colorful welcome sign in 12 languages. They had founded it 3 months ago with help from Taiho's Earth Space Force connections and Lyra's growing network of alien contacts. Today, they could see 3 new arrivals being welcomed at the door, refugees like Lyra had once been. "The Thraxi government has put a bounty on your head," Taiho said quietly. 5,000 credits for information leading to your capture." Lyra nodded calmly. "Expected. My word's dangerous to them. Are you afraid?" he asked. Lyra considered this. Fear had been her constant companion for so long. Fear of speaking out, fear of individual thought, fear of being different. Somewhere during these past 6 months, that fear had faded. "No," she said finally. "Not anymore." A light breeze stirred the cherry blossoms, sending pale pink petals drifting down around them. One landed on Lyra's ice cream. She picked it up carefully between 2 fingertips, examining its delicate structure. "On Thraxi, plants are resources," she said. "Here, they are poetry." They finished their ice cream in comfortable silence, watching the students studying on the grass. A human girl was helping a vegan with its mathematics. A Centaurian was teaching a human boy its language. All around them, the impossible was happening. Beings from different worlds learning to understand each other. Lyra's datapad chimed again. Another message from across the stars, another mind opening to new possibilities. "I should answer these," she said, rising from the bench. "More refugees coming next week. Need to prepare." Taiho stood with her, brushing cherry blossom petals from his clothes. "Ready to shock some more aliens with human kindness?" he asked with a smile. Lyra's silver eyes sparkled in the spring sunlight as she nodded. "Always." Behind them, the cherry trees continued their brief, beautiful blooming, a perfect symbol of the fragility and wonder of connection across differences. Somewhere in the vastness of space, Chief Hunter Quan might still be searching for them. But here, on this small planet that welcomed strangers, Lyra and Tejo have found something the Thraxi regime could never understand. A home built not of walls and rules, but of compassion and choice. With her 4 arms, Lyra gathered her things. One hand held her data pad, one held a university textbook, one carried a small bag, and the last reached out to take Tejo's hand as they walked together toward the refugee center and whatever new arrivals awaited their welcome. The end.